I am constantly amazed by the profound impact of sharing our struggles with each other. The one day at a time phrase helps us remember to pause. In a pulsating world, we often forget to pause. That's where One Moment Podcast began its journey, committed to nurturing mindfulness, change, and advocacy around the world, reducing stigmas associated with mental health, substance use, and suicide, and changing the way the world reacts to these taboo topics. Your voice of reason starts here. Founded by mental health professionals and agents for change, our mission is to offer insightful narratives that foster not just reflection, serenity, and insights, but to tackle the problems and solutions of mental health, substance use, and suicide on a global scale. We are making it our vision and mission to make a global impact on the mental health, substance use, and suicide crisis. It is easy to feel isolated and unheard, or like you're carrying your burdens alone. On the One Moment Podcast, we remind you that you're not alone in your struggles. There are millions of people worldwide who are struggling, and the weight of your experiences deserve to be understood. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to have a voice. The One Moment Podcast is a safe haven for connection. We have weekly podcasts. Join us to learn more about mental health, substance use, suicide, community initiatives, and much more as we tackle these global crises, creating change in the world. Change begins when we recognize there is a problem. Remember, change starts with you. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast and to connect with us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels to stay up to date on our episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, One Moment Podcast. If you would like to support us, you can find the links to donate directly to us on our official site, onemoment.chain.box. You can also support our sponsors. We are presently sponsored by W Energy, The Place to Heal, Mindfully Me Counseling, PLLC, Bright Life Therapy, PLLC, and WebHash. Check our official site for more information. Subscribe now. Some photos in this ad were created by Grok.
Good afternoon. My name is Tammy Ford. I'm a nurse manager with the W.G. Bill Hefner VA Medical Center. I've been in healthcare for over 30 years. And today we're going to talk to you about kidney disease and mental health.
Okay. And my name is Reubin Burney. I'm one of the hosts of this podcast. I'm a certified alcohol and drug counselor with 25 years plus experience and still growing and learning in this field.
And good afternoon. My name is Kevin Odom. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I am a licensed clinical addiction specialist and a certified clinical supervisor, all in the state of North Carolina. Welcome to the One Moment Podcast, as always, with some amazing hosts. And we got Mr. Trevor here. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mr. Trevor.
I hope the connection is good enough. My name is Trevor Zylstra. I'm a former correctional officer.
Well, we appreciate you being able to make it, sir. So listen, folks, before we get started in today's episode with Miss Tammy and, bringing her expertise and knowledge on kidney disease and, of course, with us, all of us talking about how kidney disease impacts mental health, substance use, and anything related to that. The episode is brought to you by Vital Apparel. Vital Apparel is a sponsor of our podcast. It is a clothing company. The owners of Vital Apparel struggle with their own mental health, and they got together and decided to put together a clothing brand. It is more in the sports area of the clothing apparel itself, but amazing company. Reubin and myself, we just bought some shirts from them. Trevor is going to be getting a shirt from them. So we've got more shirts on the way from Vital Apparel. But without further ado, let's do the advertisement for them. Amazing company again.
Of clothing, but a movement. Vital Apparel reflects not just the raw edge of the streets, but the spirit of innovation to bring about change in mental health worldwide. It's more than a style, it's a statement. A blend of comfort with an attitude made for those who refuse to be average. Embrace the culture, ignite your passion, and wear the revolution. Discover your new favorite piece today and be part of something larger than life. Visit our link now at vtlapparel.com to grab your next outfit. Use promo code ONEMOMENT to get 15% off your order. Why support us? The founders of Vital Apparel, Hung Dao and Alex Kozub, sought out to raise awareness, seeking to change the stigma around mental health. 5% of their profits are donated to Brain Research Foundation, furthering the research in mental health. Vital Apparel sponsors the One Moment Podcast. We partnered with one another so that together we can make a global impact on mental health, substance use, and suicide, saving lives one moment at a time around the world. Help us break the stigma. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast and to connect with us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels to stay up to date on our episodes. Subscribe now. Some photos in this ad were created by Grok.
So again, amazing company, amazing clothing company. If you want to go to their website, Vital Apparel, use promo code One Moment and get, I think it's 15% off of all products. Okay. Again, promo code One Moment. All right. And just a FYI, Trevor and I put a lot of these ads together and got feedback from a lot of people. So we spent a lot of time. He and I spent hours on end creating things, putting it together, and just, just so we could have it for ourselves. So, anyways, Mr. Reubin, tell us a little bit about, Miss Tammy. How do you know Tammy? How long you've been knowing her? What she does? What you know about what she does? And then we'll transition over to Miss Tammy and let her kind of bring up some of her expertise, and then hey, if anybody's in the audience, y'all are inquisitive, please ask questions. I will do my best to monitor said questions. Apologies in advance if I don't catch your question.
Well, Tammy, first of all, is one of my favorite cousins. I've known Tammy. Tammy was born around, I was like getting ready to go right to New York. She's my second cousin. We're like brothers and sisters. She has three brothers and another sister, and we're close family. And I've known Tammy all of her life. Proud of Tammy. I knew from a young age that Tammy would grow up to be successful. She already has a kind heart, so I knew that once that she would probably go into a field of helping people. So when they talk about this podcast, I thought she has a lot of experience as a nurse, works at the VA hospital, and I thought she would be a great person to have on this podcast. So far as I can't be objective like with far as Tammy, her sister Judy, her brother Zach, her another brother Pooh, his name is John. I knew her mother and father. I love them, so I can't be objective. Which Tammy is a great person, comes from a great family.
Well, thank you, Ruben. So I have a wide variety of experience in the healthcare field, geriatrics, mental health. I've done some consulting work, nursing education, also done some entrepreneurship as far as consulting with some behavioral health organizations. I've done some work with dialysis, rural health, telehealth, public health. So, a lot of different things. One thing I can say about nursing is it allows you to experience a different experience every day. And you all know that from being in the healthcare field. There's nothing like it.
What made you decide to go into the field of nursing?
Ruben, I really don't know. I ran into my fifth grade teacher, believe it or not, last year. And I didn't recognize her, but she recognized me. We were out walking. And she said, I can remember that when you were in the fifth grade, you wanted to be a nurse. I said, oh, really? She said, yeah. She said, what do you do? I said, I'm a nurse. That's exactly what I am. I guess because a lot has to do with my parents being older. I was always around older people. Caregiving is in our nature. I feel like we were part of the village concept. Everybody took care of everybody, and everybody knew everybody's business as far as we knew. So it only seems natural that I would be in.
One of the things, I know this is April now, but March was Kidney Disease Awareness Month.
It is.
And wanted to talk about because I'm coming from a lay person. I'll share. I knew a few people in the family that had kidney disease. My wife's sister. I don't like to use the word suffered. I hate to use the word suffered. I'm gonna change. She lived with kidney disease, and for a while she strived. She would do it from home. I think Tammy could explain it. She would do it from home, something for stomach or something like that. She would do it from home, and she did it for a while. She lives by herself. She has family, but after a while, she said it got to be too much for one person. The whole process. Then she started going to a dialysis center, and she would go 3 times a week and stay only 5 hours each time. And sometimes she would call me and my wife just to talk while she's doing dialysis. So, and over time, she would have good days and bad days. And in the beginning, she really did good. She passed away. I don't think it was was more or less, she had a heart attack, and she was in a store like Dollar General in a rural community in Georgia. no one knew how to do CPR or whatever. And so when she got to the hospital, she was in a coma state and she eventually passed away. But yes, I know how from just talking to her and how she talked about being on dialysis and how challenging it was, and even mentally and emotionally. We talk about the physical, but the mental and emotional toll it takes on one, you know?
So I'd like to step back for a minute because you touched on a lot of different things. One, I wanted to go back and define chronic kidney disease for those that may not be. So, chronic kidney disease is progressive, and what happens is basically your kidneys either decrease their functioning or they no longer function to rid the body of waste and fluid from the blood. Typically, we say that kidney disease is not reversible, although some people may experience a decline in their kidney functioning due to medications and drugs. Typically, chronic kidney disease is not curable, but you can slow the progression. Now, I know Kevin is somewhat interested in numbers, so I looked up some facts about chronic kidney disease. Worldwide, 1 in 10 persons will experience chronic kidney disease. Of those, 63% of those will experience anxiety. 61% will experience depression. 51 or 52% will have some form of stress and will seek mental health. You just see more admissions of psychiatric hospitalizations, about 1.5 to 3 times higher with people with chronic kidney disease in comparison to the general public. As far as thoughts of suicide, ideation, sexual disorders, interpersonal problems, paranoia, physical complaints, compulsive disorders, psychosis, aggressions, and phobia. You see that 2.5% times in the general public with people that experience chronic disease, chronic kidney disease. So, with chronic kidney disease comes a lot of, I don't want to say diagnosis, but a lot of things that affect mental illness. In reality, if you were to go to a dialysis center, the ideal dialysis center would have a mental health team there, but you don't see that a lot. Um, Ideally, we don't really prepare people for what they're going to experience when they're going through chronic kidney disease. In a world of today where we see that physical appearance is a big thing, even in the commercial we just showed, people their clothes were fitting well, they look good. We don't tell people that their appearance is going to change, and that's one of the biggest factors I think that people experience going through chronic kidney disease.
What changes physically, and like you said, their muscle tone, and what happens physically? They slow down their gait, their mobility.
Feeling lost or alone, struggling with unbearable trauma or addiction. Every day feels heavier than the day before. The weight of unaddressed emotions and problems can leave you paralyzed. On the One Moment podcast, we are aligned with the vision and mission of The Place to Heal. Founded in Sanford, North Carolina, The Place to Heal is a growing multi-specialty mental health and substance use practice dedicated to facilitating healing and personal development. Our team of compassionate clinicians are committed to providing evidence-based therapeutic interventions tailored to each individual's unique journey. We are passionate about empowering our clients to overcome challenges and achieve emotional wellness. The Place to Heal hosts and sponsors the One Moment podcast. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast and to be connected to The Place to Heal. Follow us on social media for more content.
Of those things can be affected, but typically you see physical features that change. Their skin tones may become darker, their skins become flaky or itchy. You can see a lot of weight loss or weight gain depending on where they are in the process. So it's a lot of things that go with chronic kidney disease. So you were going to say something?
Yeah, I want to kind of touch base back on that and then come back to this because I think it's critical, right? You were mentioning some of those numbers, and I just did a quick search just to give some people an idea of what that 2% or that 1.5% to 3% more likely, just to kind of put some more, information on that. In 2017, the global burden of disease estimated that for chronic kidney disease was approximately 697.5 million people. And that makes it a global prevalence of about 9.1%.
Right.
Give or take a few. The estimated global diagnosis and global number for the 2025 is setting actually higher than that. It is estimated to be about 737.1 million people worldwide is going to be diagnosed and or struggle with chronic kidney disease. That is a huge number. And so when you talk about psychiatric, the psychiatric increase in psychiatric units or psychiatric visits to hospitals and or local crisis centers, when you talk about anxiety, depression, all of those things, that puts it more into a real, me personally, puts that in a more real focus on the severity of, it's one thing if it would have been like 0.01% of the global population, but you're talking about almost 10%. And there's approximately 8.1 billion people. Go ahead. 8.8 billion. So go ahead, Miss Tammy. You were about to say something.
Well, you're saying that, and that number is expected to increase exponentially, in populations that we typically don't see chronic disease prevalence. In the Asian population, we're going to see a large number of people experiencing chronic kidney disease. And so, it's going to really affect our mental health agencies. And, people are going to be experiencing a lot of different feelings and again, we don't really talk when we speak to people. I'll just speak from the medical standpoint. We typically bring people in. We tell them this is your diagnosis. We tell them, we're going to treat you medically, but we leave out the psychosocial issues. We don't tell them that this is not only going to affect you, but your whole family. There's a lot of planning that you're going to have to do. There's things in life that you may experience. Your quality of life as you know it may change, and we don't prepare people for that. And so that's okay. And so it's no wonder that, people experience a lot of mental health problems. Um, it never ceases to amaze me. And this is where we talked a little bit about advocacy for oneself. Whenever we have a problem, we have the stigma of not wanting to utilize mental health services. But the first thing that we do is we go and talk to someone, right? So, it is important that you be able to utilize your resources for one. And the other thing is that you have to make sure that your health is a priority. Now, for me as a child, my mama always told us the golden rule. And for most people, the golden rule is what? Do unto others, right? As you would have them to do unto you. That's not the golden rule that I learned. The golden rule that I learned was to take care of oneself or look out for self. And realistically, you can't take care of anyone else and you can't really function if you're not looking out for yourself. And so that means you have to take your health as a priority.
Well, and I think you mentioned a lot as far as that, because Reubin, you said it. Trevor, you briefly mentioned it, and Miss Tammy, you've been talking a lot about it. A 2023 meta-analysis in the Lancet found that 30 to 50% of people who had CKD for short, which is chronic kidney disease, experience depression, and those who are on dialysis, as you were saying, Miss Tammy, there's approximately a 60% chance or 60% prevalent rate of depression. and depression symptoms in 2024 were seen to be as high as about 70% of people with CKD. Anxiety, again, 20 to 40% of the population. And then when you look at cognitive impairment, CKD is associated with cognitive decline due to many things such as your, I'm gonna chop this word up, toxins, anemia, vascular damage. And it said that 20 to 30% of CKD patients have mild cognitive impairment, which worsens in ESKD. It does not break that word down.
End-stage renal disease or end-stage kidney disease is what it stands for. So
Tammy.
if you think about it, Kevin, when you look at depression, when you see depression in your clinical practice, typically you're seeing lifestyle changes, right? Will be some of the things that would trigger depression. And it's a lot. I mean, financial burden, where again you were the primary caregiver or you are the primary breadwinner of your home, and now all of a sudden you've now had to either change your style of work because if you're doing like Ruben discussed peritoneal dialysis, which is a dialysis that is done um, through the stomach wall, where you can still have a more active lifestyle, but there is a change in what you're doing. So this dialysis is typically done over a period of time, usually a 8 to 10 hour period of time, and you can choose when you do it. A lot of people prefer to do it at night when they're sleeping so that it does not interfere with their daily activities.
Oh, Kevin, you're doing it. Like Tammy explained how that whole procedure. I think my sister-in-law did it for a while. She said it was just too much for her for one person. She lived alone, and although she had children, she said that was they helped out, but it was just too much for one person.
It is a lot to deal with because one, you have a lot of, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say equipment where there's boxes and boxes of what you would think of as IV fluids. And these are extremely large bags of IV fluids. There's a scale that you use. There's a machine that you have to hook up to. You have to use sterile techniques. So that means that you're washing your hands. You're very careful. No one can be in the room with you when you're setting this up. You're wearing a mask and gloves. So it's a lot for anyone, not just the healthcare personnel, but it's a lot for anyone. You're recording your weight, you're recording your blood pressure. So it does require a lot. And it can be, like I said, it could be done during the day or night. You kind of choose what works best for you. I have a friend that rotates shifts. So during the time frame that he works night, he does his dialysis during the day. He works on days, he does his dialysis during the night so that he can continue to work. Is it easy for him? No. He is well educated. Again, compliance is a big thing because one, here you have someone that's been very active, that likes to go out, socialize, and now you are how do I want to say this? You're dedicated to do these things without fail. I mean, you can have days off from your dialysis, but it affects how you feel and it also affects your body functioning. So that in itself is a big thing. The other thing is we don't really discuss anxiety levels. Whenever you're starting something new, there's always a period of adjustment that causes a higher level of anxiety. Whenever we think of chronic disease management, we don't always think of wellness, right? We think the worst. We don't think of the best. And so that causes a lot of anxiety with people. So it's a lot to it.
I'm glad that what you're describing to me helped me understand better one of my mentors in the correctional field. When he was in law enforcement, he saw a wound that caused him to have to give up one of his kidneys and he got a transplant. But to compile the troubles of that, he still was the breadwinner in the family. And somehow he got his foot into another door to a high level and he had responsibilities and supervision over the staff. And in a very positive way, he had a huge influence on my career in corrections because he believed in me. Is what he was going through his kidney dialysis and all the things. He had a young child right before he passed, and it was because the timeliness of the care that he needed to still maintain the proper health status that he could keep to produce for his family was diminished because of the lack of resources and timeliness of his care. He had all the resources with insurance and everything. Unfortunately, and I will always look up to that person, and it's affected the community as whole, the facility as a whole. So many people loved him because he showed the strength. He continued on with his duties and advanced in a big way, while at the same time dealing with, in a personal way, the extensivity of the troubles with his kidney functioning. And just, I'd hate to have to be short with this, and I'm just blessed to be able to share this story with y'all. I think of him so much, and that helps me go through my issues right now and stay out of the depression, to stay out of the malfocus on many things that he may have had to deal with. He didn't show those because he was so stout in his battle with his kidney disease, and I'll never forget that, man, to the day I die.
Thanks for sharing that. That's what I'm saying. And not only has an impact on the person, the family, but the community. I just know that in my life, I've known some few people that uh uh experienced kidney disease, and for a while they did thrive. And sometimes people assume the outcome is death, and not always. I'm wondering, Tammy, how long can a person stay on dialysis? Can they do that indefinitely?
So people can stay on dialysis for many, many years. I've known people to stay on dialysis for 20 years or longer and,
Yes.
and still thrive. So it varies, just like with any other healthcare issue, it varies with the individual. I do believe that attitude has a lot to do with
Yes.
how people view diseases and how they manage diseases. And so that's
Mhm.
why, mental health plays a big part in that, as far as developing coping mechanisms and strategies in order to help you deal with these processes or feelings that you're experiencing that you may not have experienced before.
That's a good point because I know for me, I don't, it has nothing to do with kidney disease, but I do experience high blood pressure. And from a young age, I think I was 19, well before I was married. I was 19 when I started taking medications. I take a Tenolol, daily, like I think 25 milligrams. And I was blessed living in New York, having to work in a hospital because you're exposed to nursing and healthcare. And I remember in the beginning when I first got a job at this hospital, I was there 40 years. 25 of those years I worked in the kitchen, and I had the opportunity to go up to the floors and visit with the patients. The administrator there encouraged the staff, whether it was nursing, the ones in the kitchen, whoever house, to talk to the patients. And I remember talking to this older gentleman. He was older at the time, and he would talk about like the stress, like, and he used to tell me, young man, take care of your body while you're young. Don't wait till you get older. Take care of your body. And that stuck with me. And I think you talk about attitude. I know I've experienced some health conditions, and like I shared, people, I've had a aneurysm that in my aorta that thankfully didn't rupture, and they monitored for like 3 years till they finally decide it was growing in centimeters, so they had to do surgery. I was blessed that it didn't rupture because the doctor told me if it had ruptured, Ruben, your quality of life wouldn't be what it is today. He says most people who survive an aneurysm, whether it's brain, aorta, he said their quality of life changed. He said your quality of life would have been different. And that's something I like. How would I deal with that? I've had a hip replacement, all those things, but thankfully God has blessed me to recover for those things. I try to maintain, you say, a positive attitude. Every year I have to go because I have stents below my aorta where they had the aneurysm. They put them so they could, the whole terminology. They had the so the blood could flow, and so they fixed it and all. But every year I have to go for MRI to make sure those stents stay in place. And over time I've learned to live with this. And I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. And I think my attitude, I don't worry about, well, what if? I think, I'm 68, soon to be 69. God has, I said this, God has blessed me, with a blessing, with a good life. And yes, I would like to live to, I said it last time, I would like to live to 90 on to 100. But if I don't, I'll say, thus far, He's blessed me with a good life. So I think I try to develop an attitude of positivity. And being a counselor, the whole thing is physician, heal thyself. Being a counselor and counseling other people with addiction and giving them advice or listening, I find that I internalize those things too. So it helps me as well to try to develop a happy, positive attitude. So I don't know how I would deal with it, but I would deal with it some in a positive way. You know what I mean?
Understandable.
I think I think all three of you are right, and I say all three because Trevor's not here. But I think it is perception. We spoke a little bit about that, yesterday when we were, preparing for this. I can have think about if I'm going through anything, right, I can easily take one of two positions, right? One position is poor me, poor me, poor me, right? And of course, then that increases the chance of anxiety, depression, many other, mental health related things. But if I take the position of, like y'all two were saying, the chances of me experiencing no anxiety or decreased anxiety, decreased depression, more social, more of a social life is significant. So yeah, I think perception does play a huge part when we look at, chronic kidney disease. Think I was reading a number on it, and I think if I remember correctly, over 50% lose their job within 3 years. And I think it also said something about, let me see, it doesn't give me a statistic on here, but it does say that, yeah, it does, a lot. It said that over 40% of dialysis patients are socially withdrawn, or they socially isolate due to it, which, Reubin and I talk about this all the time, but it's important for us to have a social lifestyle. When we look at the survival of the species, right? Like we are biologically wired and built to have a social life,
To
to have
connect with
relationships
others.
with others. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, I definitely agree with that. Uh, I don't want to say a problem. The challenge comes when, okay, you and I are good friends. You and I, we go out maybe twice a month, and now I'm sick, and so I'm not able to go out twice a month. It may now be that I go out once a month. We may have a couple of drinks and living our best life, as most people say, eat the worst foods that we can eat, but we're out having a good time. On the one time that I can go out with you, now I'm no longer, or I may not be able to drink as much, whereas we may have gotten hammered, or we may not have gotten hammered. We may have just had 2 or 3 social drinks. But now my drinking is restricted, and where we may have had the pizza and the wings or whatever, now I may be eating something different. And as our lifestyle changes, things change, people change. And so now you may not see me as the fun-loving, happy-go-lucky person that I once was. And so, or I may not even see myself as that now, because now my legs may be swollen. And so, whereas I might have been that cute person, or I may have lost a whole lot of weight. And so you're looking at me saying, "My goodness, Tams, you look good, but you're looking a little different." And so now I become self-conscious, and I may not want to socialize with you. So we have to teach people how to deal with that, and not look at the, I don't want to say the negative aspects, because some of those things are not negative. They could indicate that you're actually doing better physically, but people perceive them as negative, and we don't know how to educate them, or they don't educate themselves on what's going on. And they don't realize that I'm still, although I may look different, I'm still the same person. I still love to go out. I still like to laugh and joke. You can call me every now and again so that we can have the conversations that we have, and we can talk about Ruben, Kevin all the time like we usually do, and laugh, joke about him. I'm still the same person. So those are things that we have to learn to deal with and have the conversations about, and teach people about resources and connecting with other people that may be going through the same things that we're going through, to let us know that we're not alone. Because typically you're not alone. You think that you are until you talk about it, and you say the same things when even yesterday when I met Kevin, I'm thinking, hey, this is gonna be awkward. This is a young guy. I don't know him, but hey, I felt like I've been knowing him all my life. After just talking to him. So sometimes it's just a means of opening up and having a conversation that can improve your whole outlook on anything that's going on with you. And so this is where our mental health team helps us, and in our support groups, people are reluctant to ask for help. You said you're not a biblical person, but you're a spiritual person. So somewhere biblically it says you have not because you ask not, and sometimes that's all it is. It's just opening your mouth to say this is this, or this is how I'm feeling. And sometimes you may get validation on what you're feeling or what you're doing, and sometimes you may not, but you may get an alternative solution. But if you don't have the conversation, or you're socially isolating yourself because of, then you can't receive the help that you need.
I think that's important. I think something you brought up, that not just the family, friends of that person who's experiencing kidney disease should make sure that they don't. Sometimes I know, even once, for example, I know places that I work, when somebody passes away, we kind of like, we don't feel uncomfortable. And I've gone up to the person and say, because I'm a counselor, I would say, you know what? I know they said it's not all right now, but I hope to be all right. That's what that person would say. I hope I'll be all right. And I say, you know what? And I'm there to help you to get to that place. It might not be the same normal because you lost a spouse, but I'm here to help you so you can get to that space where you're okay. Not that your life was like it before. And I think sometimes as friends, we got to remember to reach out to those people who are experiencing that and not feel uncomfortable. Like, I tell a person, I know my sister-in-law, I counsel her every day. When I talk to her on the phone, she said, Ruben, my wife's family, they know they love each other, but my wife would say, bye, Betty Lou, and that was it. I said, Betty Lou, I love you. At first, she'd be uncomfortable. She'll say, I love you too, Ruben, but that's just me. I believe you should tell your loved ones, I love you. That's important, you know what I mean? I'm there for you, and not feel uncomfortable like, ooh, like, they got kidney disease, they're on dialysis. What do I say? That's not going to help either.
One of the things that I hear you saying, Ruben, that as you age, you need to keep, you know, looking as good as what you are now, because one of these days I might see another younger version of you and be more attracted to that person versus my attraction to you. Just saying.
Reality and joke. People, we we age. We My wife won't kill me for saying this, but me and my wife were somewhere, and somebody will say to her, "You're a beautiful woman," and she'll say, "I'm old," and they'll special compliment her hair, and she'll say, "I'm old," or something. I say, "Stop, just take the compliment." And she say, "Ruben," I say, our beauty, our facial as we age changes, but still, I think I've seen women that are older who are beautiful. See, that are young. I think we're so caught up in the looks. I'll be 69. I'm not gonna look like I did when I was 30. I try to respect my body, look my best, but that's not gonna happen, and I accept that. You know.
Well, I was just throwing that out there. I wanted you to be aware of that. But no, you are right, though, and Miss Tammy. Right. I'm sorry. I'm not editing that part out either. Just so you know, it's going. But no.
Kevin,
So
he don't mind me sharing. Kevin, he's a good. That's my. He's a good example of a friend that'll stick by you. You mind me sharing about the priest? You don't mind me sharing about that? You
go
mind me
ahead,
sharing?
man. I don't care.
He had. I met Kevin. He lived in Raleigh at the time, and he would live out in Southern Pines on weekends or sometime. And there was this priest that lived there. Kevin would live there sometime, and Kevin was touched by that priest. I went to the hospital to visit him, and this priest became ill with cancer or something, and Kevin stuck by that. I mean, stuck by that guy throughout. He stayed at the house with him, and he was there. The family acknowledged that Kevin stuck by him. That's what you call a friend. He stuck by that guy till the guy passed. I was touched by that. I said, that's a friend. And my wife jokingly says, well, Ruben, if something happened to you, you will have a friend for life.
And it does make a difference. You'll be amazed to watch people as they interact with family and friends and how their whole outlook changes. It certainly does make a difference when people take a vested interest in you and what you're doing. It makes a difference. It really, even for those that don't view themselves as having a strong support system. I'll give the example of a person who may have to use public transportation to get to their appointments. If they are using the same drivers, then those drivers become like family members. They learn the little nuances of the patient or the customer. And so it does make a difference. So even then, your quality of life changes. Where you may have felt like you're all alone, now you have someone else that you consider. It may not initially start out like that. He may just be your driver, but eventually they become like a family member to you. And you start to have crucial conversations, though you may not deem those as such, but they do become crucial conversations where you begin sharing life experiences. So that's all important in the mental health.
Have you ever felt like the world would be better off without you? You're not alone, and there's more to this feeling than you might think. New research reveals that suicidal thoughts and behaviours are unique to each individual, challenging the old belief that it's solely due to depression. When people are suicidal, they often believe they are a burden and that their absence would relieve others. They might see suicide as a solution to their overwhelming problems, feeling lost and unloved. But ancient wisdom, like that from the Bhagavad Gita, teaches us to give up selfishness and embrace kindness, respect, and compassion for all. St. Paul once said, "Love never fails," reminding us of the enduring power of love in our lives. No matter where you are in your struggles, remember that someone cares about you, trusts you, and loves you. You are not a burden. Time has a way of healing, and your struggles will pass. Don't give up before the miracle happens. Hold on, because peace and love are within reach. If you need immediate help, please contact local emergency services. Peace and love to all. KO.
Does anyone else have that one tool that makes building a website a breeze? In an era driven by digital change, WebHash is the indispensable tool that holds the key to effortless website creation. Create websites that endure, defy censorship, and bypass any single point of failure. As cutting-edge technology redefines reality, seize the power to build beyond limits. Join the Web3 revolution now and forge paths others can only dream of. Visit our site today and build your legacy. Building my own space on the web was always a grind until I hit up WebHash. Their no-code builder is my ace. It's swift and solid. It's like rocking a digital fortress that's immune to the typical shutdowns. Level up your web presence without stress. Ready to stake your claim in the digital realm? Dive into WebHash today, connect your Web3 wallet, and get started. They have multiple subscription plans, from a free version to a lifetime subscription. Check them out today at webhash.com. Most importantly, they sponsor the One Moment podcast, helping to raise awareness to critical topics in the healthcare field. Our official website was built using the WebHash platform. Throughout the projects that the One Moment movement built on WebHash, they stood behind and supported it all the way. Sign up and start building your website today. Don't forget to visit onemoment.chain.box and subscribe to our social media channels.
Have you ever felt unstoppable, like nothing could stand in your way? Sia's powerful lyrics in Unstoppable and reflections from Narcotics Anonymous's Just for Today inspire us to explore the choices we face in life. Nobody chooses their struggles with mental health or substance use, yet our decisions shape our paths. It's a journey filled with challenges, but also with opportunities for strength and resilience. Recovery is not just about overcoming obstacles, it's about making choices that reflect our inner power and determination. Imagine the impact of your decisions, not just on your life, but on those around you who are battling their own challenges. Every choice we make can either build us up or break us down. What will you choose today? Reflect on the power of your decisions. Each one is a step towards becoming unstoppable. Think about the people who look up to you. Your choices can inspire them to find their own strength. In moments of doubt, remember that resilience is built one decision at a time. Choose to be strong. Take a moment to reflect. What choice will you make today? Will it be one that showcases your unstoppable spirit? Peace and love to all. Remember, your choices define your journey. Stay unstoppable.
In the heart of the city, a vision was born, not just a piece of clothing, but a movement. Vital Apparel reflects not just the raw edge of the streets, but the spirit of innovation to bring about change in mental health worldwide. It's more than a style, it's a statement, a blend of comfort with an attitude made for those who refuse to be average. Embrace the culture, ignite your passion, and wear the revolution. Discover your new favorite piece today and be part of something larger than life. Visit our link now at vtlapparel.com to grab your next outfit. Use promo code ONEMOMENT to get 15% off your order. Why support us? The founders of Vital Apparel, Hung Dao and Alex Kozub, sought out to raise awareness, seeking to change the stigma around mental health. 5% of their profits are donated to Brain Research Foundation, furthering the research in mental health. Vital Apparel sponsors the One Moment podcast. We partnered with one another so that together we can make a global impact on mental health, substance use, and suicide, saving lives one moment at a time around the world. Help us break the stigma. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast and to connect with us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels to stay up to date on our episodes. Subscribe now. Some photos in this ad were created by Grok.
Yeah. No, and y'all are right. And I want to be careful on this. So just in case we do say anything on this next part, trigger warning, if anybody is watching, if anything that we say is triggering for you, please seek immediate help. If you are in the United States or any territory of the U.S., you can dial 911 or 988. If you are not in the United States or any of its territories or any related territories to those numbers, please dial an emergency number that is in your area. Also, for anybody who is watching this, please go to if you need help, you can also seek services from a local emergency department or a local crisis center. So with that being said, we also have, I was doing some research, and a 2023 study in the American Journal of Kidney Disease found that suicidal ideations affects 15 to 25% of dialysis patients compared to 1.2% in the general population. Suicide rate among dialysis patients is 2 to 3 times higher than the general population, with a 2024 clinical journal of the American Society of Nephrology and a study reporting a rate of 84 per 100,000 person compared to 20 per 100,000 in the general U.S. population. And so, yeah, when you talk about, and I hope YouTube or anybody did not just kick us off, but I felt like that was also critical to know, because we're talking about loneliness, right? We're talking about loneliness and, due to that lack of social life, right? Or changes in lifestyle. And so I think, I wanted to throw that third branch in there too, because, I think that's a huge piece of it. And so when we look at the research, whether it be medical or clinical research, that social lifestyle, right? That ongoing, lifestyle of trying to get out, of trying to be active in our own lives, trying to participate in our lives, even if it might even be as you said, Miss Tammy, seeking a mental health therapist, seeking a substance use therapist, seeking those resources in the community, so that we don't go off on that, to the part that we were just talking about. And I hope that is something that somebody understands as they watch this, as they watch the video clips, utilize your resources. Like, for sure, there's resources out there. We're talking about mental health and kidney disease right now and the relationship between the two. So there's resources out there. Please seek them if you need them. But yeah, I mean, that's to me, that is concerning. All of this data is concerning. And so what else? My question to you is, Miss Tammy, because we have the loss of employment, right? We have all of these things we've spoken about. What else can a person do if they, whether it be family or the directly that person who is struggling with kidney disease? What else can they do to help themselves out?
They
Well, I ain't gonna say, I ain't gonna say just to manage the disease, but to manage maybe their lifestyle, maybe, to manage the
right.
financial piece of it, right? To manage many of those things. So yeah, whatever you feel like sharing, Miss Tammy.
So I think a big part of it is education. We see these things as being different, but these things are actual normal parts of life, right? So, and it's not to minimize what's going on in the world, but we have people that are seeking employment because their jobs have been downsized or plants are closing or for whatever reason. It might be that they simply the job is stressful, so now they're looking for something else and have either voluntarily or involuntarily decided to try something else. So a big part of it is education and educating yourself. And that's something else that we need to be more proactive in doing. I always use the example of someone sharing a conversation with their best friend. We got to have the who, what, when, where, how, and
Yes.
everything. I mean, we got to have everything, but we don't do that when it comes to our health.
Mhm.
It's like you were saying earlier, Ruben. You go to the doctor says this, and this. You say okay. You go home. You try to digest what they've just told you. In some ways, you hear what you want to hear, and you leave it at that. And so you go back again the next time. You either agree with what he's saying, and so or she's saying, and so you follow the treatment protocol, or you may alter it to do. But a big part of it is educating yourselves and seeking alternative solutions. And this is no different in what you do in everyday life, really. It's just how we cope with things, and it's hard to hear that something has changed. Heck, sometimes it's hard for me when I go in there and try on a pair of pants and they fit last week, but now they're a little snug. I mean, these things are hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. Small changes are hard, but
Yes.
you imagine that amplified.
Mhm.
So it's a lot to deal with. And again, resources is a big thing that's going to really help you in managing your disease process and
Uh-huh.
also in managing your mental health, because that's important. And so I think for me, what I see mostly is that the strong support networks is really what helps you, whether it be with your medical community, because they can refer you to different community resources. Sometimes, people may struggle with the financial burden of even just buying food and medications to make their disease process easier. One big thing with a kidney disease is securing protein, because you tend to lose a lot of protein. And so, you have those protein drinks. And I don't know if you've been to Sam's or wherever you may purchase those things from. Those things are sort of expensive if you're using them on a regular basis. And so things like that, I just really believe that talking helps a lot. And we have to learn to accept the fact that not everybody is a talker. So you have to kind of get in where you fit in, I guess is how I
Right.
want to say it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it may be that the person initially may not be a talker. You may do all the talking as the healthcare personnel, or even as a family member or friend, and just listen and observe. I call them subtle changes in body movement, facial expressions, things of that sort.
You learned that what we was talking about earlier. is how important it is for to have a partnership with your um, medical provider. I know for myself, my doctor I had been going to for 14 years, and he recently retired. And he said to me, you know, Ruben, give that new doctor a chance. And I said I would because I know my mother-in-law was the type when she came to stay with us briefly when we lived in New York. She stayed with us about almost a year, and she came with all these medications. And I remember my wife saying, "Mom, what's this for?" She says, "I don't know. The doctor just told me to take it, and I take it." And I always say, you know, it's important to have a partnership with the doctor and to ask questions, like Tammy said, to be educated, as opposed to just saying, you know, the doctor is there, he does this. If I get a doctor that can't, I know that they can't spend an hour with me. Now they had this concierge medicine and all that, but they can't. But I know at the same time, I want a doctor that I feel like I'm being heard, or I'll switch it to. I tell my patients oftentimes it's important to have that relationship and find that doctor. Even in counseling, I say that sometimes patients will say, "Well, I don't want to hurt my counselors." This is totally different, but I don't want to hurt my counselors' feelings. I tell my patients or clients, "Look, if you and I don't click, yes, I'm human. I might go home and sulk a little while, but I'll be okay." It's about you making sure you have that connection with that therapist or that counselor. And the same way with the doctor, making sure you have that. Just don't go there and say, yeah, and no, advocate, be proactive. This is your health. Think of it as a partnership. I strongly believe in that.
You're right, Ruben. And then the other thing that you need to do is you need to come prepared with your questions. You know, sometimes just like, you know, with us, we've talked on different subjects, kind of bounced around. And you're right, you only have those X amount of minutes with your provider. So you need to maximize your time. So making sure that you have the questions prepared that you want answered. And also, you know, what I strongly believe in is that you need a second set of ears there. Because again, sometimes you hear what you want to hear and sometimes you don't because of anxiety and frustration, you don't hear exactly what the doctor has told you. And so after the appointment, you can kind of have I call it a debriefing or a conference afterwards to say, "Hey, this is what, you know, he told me that I'm supposed to do this. Is this what you heard?" And then the other person can say, "No, that's not exactly," or "Yeah, this is exactly what he heard." But we also, so that way you kind of have a confirmation. And then also in case of emergency, because this is always my thing. When you have one person that knows it all, what happens when something happens to that person?
That's it. That's
That's
it.
it.
It ceases.
That's it. So you have a second person that knows what to do in case there is an emergency. They know what
Yes.
medications you're taking. They even know what doctor you go to because you know if realistically, if you were to ask me now who my family sees as part of their healthcare providers, I don't know. But what I've told them is, in your house, you should have a board somewhere that I can easily see in case something happens. And you know, and to throw this on a side note, I was in a job position where that was something when I did rural health, that was something that we preached. At every class that I taught, every conference that we went to, we taught that to people. Well, I had a coworker that worked right beside me. She was my co-educator. She taught the same things. When I wasn't talking, she was teaching the same thing. And we had an emergency with her. And lo and behold, I said, "Keep your medicines in your phone so we'll know what's going on." We had an emergency where she had a brain aneurysm that ruptured. And we
Wow.
were in a county that we were not familiar with. And so one of the first things that they asked me is, "What medications did she take?" So I go to the phone to look, nothing's there.
Wow.
Oh, her husband, he's out. So he's like, "I don't know what she takes. We have a list at home." So these are precious moments.
Reminds, yes, that just reminds, that's important. Yes.
Not to just throw off, but
Well,
I
I
have to
think it
put
goes
that
back
in.
to, Josh and I spoke about this a little bit when we did AI and healthcare. And, informed consent, it doesn't just mean I want to be informed if my medical providers using AI. We already know if you're going through brain surgery or something like that, like it's going to be in that informed consent. But how many therapists do you know, right? Well, how many providers do you know really has a adequate quality, informed consent, process? There's not a lot of people that do. And how many people do you know? How many therapists, or excuse me, how many clients, participants, patients, whatever you want to call it, right? How many people do you really know will ask questions about the processes that go into play?
They
They,
don't. They
they,
one because
they
you don't know what to ask. That's the big thing that I hear. Even sometimes when I go to the doctor, if it's something that I'm not very familiar with, they'll say, "Do you have any questions?" And I'm like, "No," because I don't know what to ask.
Right. And so no, you're absolutely right. And I think it goes back to, that sounds like it's a gap and a barrier in the
It is.
healthcare field,
It
not
is.
just on the medical piece, but also on the mental health and substance use crisis area too, because, informed consent, that's a person's right to be informed about the processes, about the treatment that they're going to be undergoing, the medicate, all of that, right? And it's not just a person's medical and or clinical educational right, it's also a human right to be informed adequately and appropriately, and that's regardless of the situation. That's regardless. I mean, I went through I had a recent thing where I had to go through oral surgery, and I left out of there. You look, I was jacked from the walls because I mean, I was jacked. I wasn't even thinking of anything else besides I told my driver, I'm like, or the guy who picked me up, not my driver, excuse me. Let me be a little bit more respectful on that piece. I asked the person who drove me, I'm like, hey man, can we stop and get something to eat and something to drink real quick? And the guy was like, you can't have nothing for 2 hours, Kevin. We're not stopping. We're going to get back to the house. And I'm like, thank you for informing me. I wasn't thinking about that because I wasn't in that type of.
Because he went with you. He right.
Yes. See, I have completely forgot because I was high as a man, I was high as a Georgia pine, cuz from the anesthesia.
Yeah.
But he was there because you need a driver, right? And he was there and he was able to help me, go through best practice for days because the anesthesia just completely wiped my memory. I wasn't thinking about it. I couldn't think. And
You
so
know
it
when
is.
I think whether it's an illness that you're living with, or I just think just growing older. I always say this. I'll say this in other podcasts. I have more years behind me than I do ahead.
You're
Things
still
that are
you are
uncomfortable.
still
Me
sexy,
and my
honey.
wife talk about. No, seriously, we talk about. I know you want to say something funny. I know that, but we talk about, and I have an advanced directives in place because when I had that aneurysm that they repaired, it made me think. You know, I don't want my wife to have to guess what is Ruben's wishes. What is this? I have a living well advanced directive. When I go to the hospital, they always say, "Do you have advanced?" I say, "I have it, but it's the next time bring it with you so we have it on file." It's one thing to have it, but to have it on file. But I think as we get older, we have to have those conversations. Not that we gonna die tomorrow, but we have to accept. You know what? When you start getting your 60s, 70s, and 80s, you have to accept that you have more years behind you than ahead. And it's okay to have those uncomfortable conversations about things. I don't want to be left up in the air like, what would you need? What would I? It's okay to have those conversations. They are uncomfortable, but they need to be had. They have to be had.
So, Kevin, we talked about having these conversations, and people are, I'm not going to say reluctant, but uncomfortable with having those conversations. So, how do you, as a therapist, encourage people to express, what they need to express, or to have the conversations that they need to have with persons that will in their treatment plan with what they did?
You had to ask me, didn't you?
I did. I did.
I have never been in that position where I've had to have those types of sessions where we talk about end of life decisions.
Not even just end of life decisions, but just conversations.
Well, there are a few now. There are a few that I've had, and not specifically related to advanced directives and all of that stuff. But I have had to have conversations about legal guardianship, healthcare power of attorneys, and stuff like that. And so, one of the things that I do when I have to have those types of conversations, when I've had those conversations with, people, it really starts off as looking at the individual who's struggling with the situation and, you know, then asking, hey, have you ever thought about such and such, right? Such as legal guardian. Have you ever thought about getting legal guardianship? Well, no, I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to go. Maybe I thought about it. I just don't know the processes. And I'm not a legal person by any means. So I always emphasize, listen, the information I tell you, the information I'm going to give you is educational only. And so speak to an adequate qualified attorney, speak to a local magistrate in your area. They will be able to disclose more to you and give you more accurate information over the whole process, how it works. You can ask them questions. They might have more questions than, what I'm going to tell you. And so I just go through and give them this much information that's very minimal. Hey, it helps out with this, it helps out with this, it helps out with that. And so that's the way I have those conversations, especially you if Reubin, and I'm gonna pick on you, Reubin, if I saw Reubin stressing and making inaccurate decisions, unquality decisions, I'm gonna say unquality. I don't even think that's a word. But if I saw him making decisions that I'm like, I would carry my butt to Geneva and say, hey, boss lady, we need to have a convo real quick. I'm concerned about Reubin. I think somebody needs to be his healthcare power of attorney, maybe even his whomever. Maybe a legal guardianship. Maybe he needs something. And if you need help, if the family needs help, I'll jump in and assist. I don't care. But I would have those conversations on a personal one-on-one issue, especially with somebody like you. I know I wrote up a will and
And it,
are you in it? Well, hold on. Listen, I don't remember if you're in it or not because I wrote it like a year or so, year and some change ago. I honestly don't remember what I put in it, but I've got to actually. It was never certified, so it was never final. I asked a guy if he could be what the heck is it called when unconscious or they have to make some hard decisions about
executive,
you,
what's that? Executor or something? I don't know.
something of
Healthcare
that
power
sort.
of attorney.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So I asked the guy if he could, step in and be that because I'm like, listen, I don't want my family, I don't want none of my folks in here on this because they're too emotional, right? They think emotionally. I'd rather have somebody who's able to have a balance between emotion and and cognition. And I'm like, you're the guy I want. And he was like, well, let me pray about it and I'll get back to you. And I haven't heard anything since, so I haven't sent him anything to sign. I haven't none of that. But you know, I know it's important. I've done training on it. I've done a lot of training in this area that we're talking about. So for me, I think it's, getting back to the idea of what your question was in a relationship, as far as in relationship to your question, I think it starts off with asking. For me, I start off with asking and then providing education if they want that information.
Does anyone else have that one tool that makes building a website a breeze? In an era driven by digital change, WebHash is the indispensable tool that holds the key to effortless website creation. Create websites that endure, defy censorship, and bypass any single point of failure. As cutting-edge technology redefines reality, seize the power to build beyond limits. Join the Web3 revolution now and forge paths others can only dream of. Visit our site today and build your legacy. Building my own space on the web was always a grind until I hit up WebHash. Their no-code builder is my ace. It's swift and solid. It's like rocking a digital fortress that's immune to the typical shutdowns. Level up your web presence without stress. Ready to stake your claim in the digital realm? Dive into WebHash today, connect your Web3 wallet, and get started. They have multiple subscription plans, from a free version to a lifetime subscription. Check them out today at webhash.com. Most importantly, they sponsor the One Moment podcast, helping to raise awareness to critical topics in the healthcare field. Our official website was built using the WebHash platform. Throughout the projects that the One Moment movement built on WebHash, they stood behind and supported it all the way. Sign up and start building your website today. Don't forget to visit onemoment.chain.box and subscribe to our social media channels.
So identifying what's important. I think that's something that we as healthcare providers tend to forget. What may be important to us may not be as important to the patient. So we have to identify what's important to them, what
Right.
quality of life for them. What what my quality of life is different from Ruben's, it's different from yours, Kevin. Everybody has their own individual idea of what they want their life to look like.
Well, no, you are right. And my whole for me personally, this is a little bit more on a personal level, you know, and I'm gonna say it on screen. So if anybody wants to pull my healthcare power of attorney or whatever, this is my verbal request. Do not let me be as a vegetable. Do not let me have to come back and live in significant impairment physically. I can't live. Like I want my independence. I want to be able to do the pie. I want to do all this stuff. I don't want to have to do no, So this is my verbal request for a DNR. I'm being real. Like
Kevin, I think one thing Kevin always says, and he has those. I know one time we had a group here, and it was a group of just the counselors, and it was uncomfortable subjects, and it was a training to see how well you know your friends and stuff. And I remember something came up, and the guy say, "I said that's because Kevin and I he's a brother to me, but we have those conversations that people generally don't like to have. So what I say is like where I live at now, I live in a 55 plus community, and on my street I see lately they joke and say, Ruben, you're the youngest person on the street. After a while, a lot of them have because they're older in age. They happen to maybe their wife or husband's died, so they sure to decide maybe they should go into a nursing home or they should go into assisted living. I have a neighbor, 95 years old. I enjoy talking to her. I would go have coffee with her like once a week. She lived right next door. She would pick strawberries and bring them by the house. And it was funny because she come by and say, well, my wife said, well, how about me? And so I remember her saying, where I live at, they have a clubhouse, and every year they have a Christmas party. So my wife said, well, I'm not going. She told her lady, my husband likes older women, so he'll take you. And I said, me and you gonna go to the next Christmas party, but she happened to her daughter moved her to Florida to be in assisted living. And I found a lot of my neighbors that is happening to. And where I live at, they do have the good thing about it, they have gatherings. To me, it might sound, oh, I don't want to do that. Like they have a chili bang bang. They might have something by the pool and stuff. And right now, I don't participate, but I said to my wife, you know what? It's good to know those things are there because if my lifestyle changed, I would still want to have those connections. A lot of I work, so I try to go visit them, and they know I'm still working, but I do make time for my neighbors. If it's the only thing just to drop by, we go to the mailbox and just talk, just to know. I think those relationships are important because I always say when I'm that age, if I'm still living, I want that person to talk to me. One of my neighbors said she said, Ruben, I'm sharing with you. I'm selling my house and I'm going to live with my daughter in Charlotte. And she said her husband died about 3 years ago. And she said, you know what, Ruben, my husband really enjoyed talking to you. And her husband would just come up the street. He always looked when I came outside to get the mail. He would come up the street. He was about 95 years old. He'd talk to me. And then his wife had to come get him and say, come on, it's dinner time. And we just have conversation, but she's telling me how important that was to him. And I always try to make room in my life for people like that because one day that's going to be me. You know what I mean? So to have those connections is important.
absolutely, 100%. I am right there with you. So
Tammy, what can we do what's some of the things important that we during the time for is like when I say manage a disease, nutrition is important. If you can, nutrition and all that stuff.
So I think, first of all, I think managing your stress levels. And so you speak about nutrition because typically when we stress, we either tend to not eat enough or eat more than what we're what's required of us. I'm not gonna say what. is what's required of us. So I think managing your stress is going to be one of the biggest things. And you can do that again by one, expressing what your needs are. It could be mindfulness, exercises. It could be exercising, whether it be, I know you like to dance. It could be getting out walking, doing creative things like drawing or coloring. Also, relaxing, whether that consists of reading a book, going to the movies, or just taking some me time where you go and just do you. Of course, limiting your salt and your caffeine is going to be a big part of it, and that includes reading labels because a lot of things have a lot of hidden ingredients in it that can affect what's going on with you. We talked a little bit about attitude. I think, expressing an attitude of gratitude. And if you would talk, well, it's true. I'm not the most optimistic person. Every day I try to get up and try to read something positive or try to think of something positive. And I'll go to work and I'll say, "Oh, the day is gonna be such and such day." Or we start out with my group. I start out with a positive word of the day, and then probably I go to work at 8 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, of course I've had one of my verbal outbursts, and they'll say, "What happened to the positive word of the day?" Start over. Just give me another shot at it. I'm human, but at least we did.
You're right.
So, step one, making sure that you get plenty of sleep because you don't function as well when you're tired and fatigued, and being fatigued is part of your disease process. So, add that on top of a lack of sleep, and sometimes that may involve getting some sleep aids. And there again, we have the stigma of I don't want any additional medications or I don't need medications. And again, I'm not a person that believes there's a pill for every ill, but sometimes you may need those additional resources. And again, setting smart goals. So that's, it's not saying that today I'm going to lose those 10 pounds that the doctor said that I needed to lose by the time I go back to the appointment, but being realistic in your goals, because again, your goals may not be the same thing as what your doctor's goals are. So it may be that by the time that you go back to the doctor, whereas that you drinking 8 drinks a day or 8 pops a day, you're down to 4. Setting realistic, smart goals and remembering that every little bit counts. And definitely what you said about ensuring that you have a healthcare provider that is going to be there for you and that you can have those healthy conversations, whether they're comfortable or not comfortable. You need to be able to speak to whoever you're speaking to or have at least one person that you can express your needs to. And so, making sure that you also understand what the plan is and that your plan is aligned with your doctor's plan because sometimes we have our own agenda.
Yes. Yeah.
Our agendas align with each other.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's definitely true.
No,
Kevin,
thank you.
anything you wanted to add as we near, well, I'm not near that time. Anything you wanted to add?
I think that's a great call to action right there. Thank you, Miss Tammy. I don't think I can touch that, with any type of call to action. I can think I'm not a kidney specialist, but I will say, listen, for those who are watching, Miss Tammy, it's been an absolute privilege and honor having
Yeah.
you on. Um, and for my call to action to add on to what Miss Tammy said, be informed, ask questions. I mean, Ruben said earlier too that he and I have hard conversations and we do talk about, listen, I am mid 30s and we talk about, end of life decisions. We talk about a lot of things from politics to race to culture. We talk about a lot of things.
Yes.
And we do bring research in it when we do talk about it. And this is on a personal level, podcast level. So yeah, I made the comment earlier about, hey, this is my verbal cue to my family, right? Reality is, that's based on if I am, struggling because of my perception of quality of life. So I guess if you could take anything away from this call to action that I'm giving too, have hard conversations for one. Number two, be informed about your treatment, right? It's your personal, it's your patient and human rights to be informed about your treatment. And number three, perception. Perception is going to be key there. You can have whatever perception you want, right? But let's work toward having a positive, a
And one thing I forgot to mention that I did want to mention is insurance. If you have insurance, use the insurance. We have a lot of people that, I didn't even really think about this until yesterday. I was watching an ad and it was talking about a nutritionist that, a lot of insurance policies cover nutrition and we don't use it. You're paying for it. So utilize your insurance policies. If you don't pay for, I mean, you're paying for it now out of pocket, but if you don't use it, you're going to pay for it in the long run. So ensure that you're getting your annual physicals, your checkups, the preventative health checkup, making sure that you utilize it and maximizing your benefits is what I'm.
I think having I said I wasn't religious, but I'm spiritual. And I said that I don't want to be the type of person. I do believe that going to a church and fellowshipping with a group is important. It grows your spirituality. But I've seen people go to this church after the minister say something wrong they don't like. They'll go to another church. I said I want to find a church, whether it's in Salisbury or whatever. I can do telehealth that I feel like this is my church for life. Not, oh, the preacher says something. I'm switching churches. So I'm still out there searching. My mother's probably turning on her grave because she's telling me, Ruben, you got to belong to a church before you pass this earth. So I'm searching though, but always having a spiritual relationship with God because I hear people always say, I want to be with the Lord one day, but nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to die. We talk about we want to be with the Lord, but in order to be with the Lord, to be absence of man is to be with the Lord. So you're going to have to die at some point and not looking at death as, oh God, it's just this horrible thing. We're absent from our friends, but if we believe we're going to be with the Lord, that's important.
So what is your call to action for the audience as we wrap this call up? Yeah.
Well, just like Tammy and everybody was saying, to get educated, to be informed, to reach out, to communicate your feelings, communicate your needs. For friends of the loved ones of that person, don't be uncomfortable around that person. Tell that person. I've seen guys I know, that got kids, and I'll say, man, I love you. And it might be uncomfortable again, but I want them to know I'm here. God forbid if something happened, I love you. You know what I'm saying? So I know that all those things are important to be informed, to be there, just to be there and listen, to meet that patient or client. I know as a substance abuse counselor, I used to think I have to give them advice and tell them what to do and tell them how to fix it. I learned over the years that's not just to listen. They know what to do. Okay, uh, to be there for them, meet them where they're at. Just listen. Don't try to think of an answer before while you're listening to them. Just listen and be present in the moment. And that's what I say with loved ones. Listen, you're suffering. No, I don't use the word. You're experiencing. You're living with kidney disease. I care. I'm here. I'm with you. I'm just listen. Reach out to me. If I can help you, I will. And that's just it.
Absolutely. Listen, folks, mi familia, as I always like to say. Uh, I'd like to thank again Miss Tammy for
Definitely, yes.
giving her
But I
time.
have one last question. Why is
Absolutely.
my name Miss Tammy and I'm younger than Ruben? Not to throw off on Ruben. And Ruben is Ruben.
Yeah, I'm Miss Tammy and I'm Ruben.
Because
And
it's
see,
respect to
wait,
you, ma'am.
I gotta
It
see.
is respect. It is respect to you, ma'am. And Ruben, he's just Ruben. I mean, listen, you are much nicer looking than Ruben is. Just saying. And I think I say that out of respect to you. Ruben is flabby. He's getting flabbier day by day. Okay.
Hey,
I love you, Ruben.
say this is funny. His wife and my wife used to say, "Boy, they should get together." I said, "You know what? If I was in a gay relationship, it would be with Kevin." They said, "Why?" I said, "Kevin." I said, "I'm 60. Kevin will dump me in 2 years. He'll get picked on." I think it wouldn't last. He would dump me in a matter of no time. No way.
And the thing is he and I disagree on one thing, but all the other stuff in life we basically agree on. And there's only that one thing he keeps just nabbing at me about, and I keep nabbing at him every so often. And so, listen, I love you, brother. I love you.
That's the type
Yeah,
of
and
person.
this world I'll do for you, except for that one thing. And you already know one thing is, so we ain't gonna mention it live. Listen, Friday we got the young man's name is Mr. Todd Weatherly. He's going to be coming on the podcast. He's absolutely an amazing clinician. He does a lot in the field too. He's out of I think he's located out of Asheville, North Carolina. Like I say, I think he's located out of Asheville. Next week, we got a peer support specialist coming on. There's a lot of things that we have in development. Again, thanks to our sponsorship. WebHash is absolutely phenomenal. Who else? It's Bright Life Therapy. It's the place to heal. Vital Apparel, W Energy, all of our sponsors, they are absolutely amazing. They make this thing possible. They make it happen. And I've got to update the website because we got a lot of stuff that we need to update. But listen, that's procrastination, right? So thank you for checking in. Thank you for watching us live. Thank you for watching the videos and the clips. We appreciate it. Check us out on YouTube.
Thank you, Tammy. Look at Miss Tammy.
Y'all, I have enjoyed y'all thoroughly.
Imagine a day where fatigue doesn't stand a chance, where clarity perks up your focus as the clock ticks on. Discover W Energy, the drink that transforms ordinary moments into opportunities. With no sugar and flavors that feel like gourmet art, each sip stirs your senses, readying you for greatness. W Energy is a focus energy drink that contains no sugar and is available in a variety of unique flavors. Their coffee fruit cherry extract is the star of the show. This ingredient is what makes W unique and helps to provide smooth and effective focus and energy, making it perfect for anyone who needs to conquer a task. W flavors are created with one goal in mind, to taste unlike any other beverage. We combine bold and unique flavor combinations to craft an experience for your tongue with each sip. W achieves its smooth, effective focus with a high-end tasting experience while using no sugar, no fillers, and no artificial color or dyes. Every product they create follows the same philosophy. Be effective, be clean, and taste as good as nature will allow. Use promo code ONEMOMENT to enjoy 10% off their products. And most importantly, they sponsor the One Moment podcast. They are helping to raise awareness of mental health, substance use, suicide, and much more around the world, seeking to make a global impact, reducing stigmas and changing lives one moment at a time. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast. Follow us on our social media channels for more information and to stay up to date with our episodes.
Imagine a battle raging inside you, a battle between two wolves. One embodies all that is good, the other all that is evil. Vladimir Soloviev, a renowned Russian philosopher, once said, "What is important is not that in every man are the roots of good and evil, but which of the two prevails." This idea is beautifully captured in the Cherokee proverb about two wolves. When asked which wolf wins, the wise grandfather replied, "The one you feed." In our daily lives, we often feel pulled in various directions, experiencing internal conflicts and questioning our choices. These ideologies remind us to focus on doing what's right, to feed the good wolf within us. Feeding the good wolf means nurturing qualities like love, honesty, honor, integrity, respect, dignity, loyalty, and trust. Every day presents a new challenge. Which wolf will you feed today? Tomorrow? Next week? Next year? The choice is yours, and it shapes who you become. Will you let the good wolf prevail? Remember, the wolf you feed determines the path you walk and the person you grow into. So, as you close your eyes tonight, ask yourself, which wolf will you feed? Good night, family. KO.
I am constantly amazed by the profound impact of sharing our struggles with each other. The one day at a time phrase helps us remember to pause. In a pulsating world, we often forget to pause. That's where One Moment Podcast began its journey, committed to nurturing mindfulness, change, and advocacy around the world, reducing stigmas associated with mental health, substance use, and suicide, and changing the way the world reacts to these taboo topics. Your voice of reason starts here. Founded by mental health professionals and agents for change, our mission is to offer insightful narratives that foster not just reflection, serenity, and insights, but to tackle the problems and solutions of mental health, substance use, and suicide on a global scale. We are making it our vision and mission to make a global impact on the mental health, substance use, and suicide crisis. It is easy to feel isolated and unheard, or like you're carrying your burdens alone. On the One Moment podcast, we remind you that you're not alone in your struggles. There are millions of people worldwide who are struggling, and the weight of your experiences deserve to be understood. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to have a voice. The One Moment podcast is a safe haven for connection. We have weekly podcasts. Join us to learn more about mental health, substance use, suicide, community initiatives, and much more as we tackle these global crises, creating change in the world. Change begins when we recognize there is a problem. Remember, change starts with you. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast and to connect with us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels to stay up to date on our episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, One Moment Podcast. If you would like to support us, you can find the links to donate directly to us on our official site, onemoment.chain.box. You can also support our sponsors. We are presently sponsored by W Energy, The Place to Heal, Mindfully Me Counseling, PLLC, Bright Life Therapy, PLLC, and WebHash. Check our official site for more information. Subscribe now. Some photos in this ad were created by Grok.
Have you ever wondered how the principles of 12-step programs align with the core values of diversity, equity, and inclusion? Stay tuned to discover a surprising connection that might just change your perspective. Good morning, family. Today, we delve into the 12 traditions of 12-step programs and their emphasis on relationships. How do these traditions mirror DEI principles? Diversity is about our differences, and inclusion ensures everyone feels a sense of belonging. The 12 traditions guide us in respecting both differences and similarities. These traditions allow individuals to be themselves, free from barriers, and participate fully in relationships. They foster a sense of belonging, freedom, and love. People often say, "The steps keep me from killing myself, and the traditions keep me from killing other people." This highlights the importance of these guidelines in maintaining harmony. Many religious ideologies also emphasize DEI principles. For instance, Judaism's Tikkun Olam focuses on community service and social justice, aiming to repair the world. Jainism, an ancient Indian religion, emphasizes compassion and empathy, recognizing the inherent value and dignity of everyone. The Lotus Sutra, a Buddhist scripture, teaches us to recognize the worth and dignity of every individual, reinforcing the idea of inclusion. Feeling a sense of belonging is crucial for our growth and development. It's inherent in our very fabric of existence as social beings. So, what will you do today to help someone else feel a sense of belonging? Let's continue to pass on love, compassion, and empathy to everyone we meet. Peace and love to all.